1st of December, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
Okay. Good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshiva Tamanafshi, here in Yerushalayim Kerem Zoom. This is our first year in the morning. We're learning a little bit about Hanukah. Today we'll concentrate on Al Nisim, some of the commentaries of what we can be aware of when we're saying Al Nisim. I sent out a new document last night. I'm not sure, Lou, if you had a chance to send it out to everybody.
I did.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I'll put it on the screen as well, so I have a chance to look. Okay, here we are. Yes, this is a quote. The first few paragraphs are basically the nusach of what we say in Al Nisim. This is a quote from the Rav Seder of Amram Goin, which it varies a little bit from our standard nusach we have this manazeh. After all, Rav Amram Goin lived about 1,400 years ago or so, maybe 1,200 years ago. And so there was some slight changes and different versions that were finally codified to be our standard version of Al Nisim. Fine. As we read through the Al Nisim, if anyone has any questions or comments along the way, so let's discuss it, and then then we'll get to the main body of the commentaries that are quoted in the document.
I'm just going to get the
Oh, very good. Yeah, who would like to do any reading this morning to begin with?
I do.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Finally.
Al Hanisim, Al Hagevuros, Al Teshuos, Al Milkamos, Al Ha-Pedus, Al Ha-Porkan, She'asisa Lavosenu, Biamim, Hahem, Bazman Hazeh. Okay, so that is, I guess that's what the nusach of the, what you say in the Shemona Esrei?
Yeah, and also invention. There's one addition here. There's a ala podos ala porkan. So the podos and porkan, I think, if I'm not mistaken,
We say ala porkan is the second. Ala porkan.
right.
Ala porkan. We
Right,
don't say ala pedus.
Right, we have a different order, and we also have a Rav Avram has a different order, and he also has additional things that he says rather than what we have. We have a shortened version, correct?
All right, so let's just go through this. For the miracles and for the victories. And Gevuros is mighty victories.
Yeah, perhaps you could say that if you like. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, and the Teshuos is the salvation.
Good, right, good. Right.
And the Milchamos is the war.
Plural, wars, the wars.
The wars. And the what's Padut?
Padus are the redemptions.
Redemptions. And then Purkan is also victory, I believe.
Yeah, Purkan, it's a type of redemption also. It's very similar. That could be why we in our version don't have it, because it's very similar to produce.
Okay. So that's redemption also. That you did for our forefathers in those days at this time. Okay. Bimei Matisya.
Matisyahu. Matisya.
Yeah, it isn't Matisyahu, it's Matisya. Why is that? I thought it was Matisyahu.
That was his nickname.
His
mother called him that.
Could be called by different. You see that the names are sometimes a bit changeable. I mean, it's Yahoo.
Okay. Ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol Hashmonai Uvanav and his children Kishamda Alehen Malchus Yavan, that when the kingdom of Greece stood up upon them, Harsha, they were wicked. Al Amacha Yisrael, they stood up upon your nation Israel. Lishkacham mitorasecha, to make them stray from your Torah.
Actually, forget. Yishkacha, to forget.
Oh, forget. Make them forget your Torah. Ulahaviram mechukei ritzanecha. And that is to stray, right? To stray from the laws of your will.
Right, good. To transgress. La'avira. Avera is a transgression.
Oh, to
La'avira, having transgressed.
Vata barachamecha haravim amadta lahem be'es tzarasam, and you in your abundant mercy stood up for them in this time of their sorrow. Ravta et rivam, you fought their fight. Danta et es dinam, you judged their judgment. Nakamta es nikmasam, you redeemed their redemption.
Avenge, take to vengeance for their.
Oh, you avenged their vengeance.
Right.
Masarta Gibarim, you delivered the mighty Biad Chalashim into the hands of the weak. Virabim Biad Ma'atim, the many into the hands of the few. Virashim Virashaim Biad Tadikim, the wicked into the hands of the righteous. Tameim Biad Taharim, the impure into the hands of the pure. Vizedim biad oske torasecha, the willful sinners into the hands of the diligent in your Torah. Below asisa shem gadol v'kadosh balamecha. Oh, I'm sorry, not below. Ulecha, and you made a great name, a great and holy name in your world. Ulamacha Yisrael asisa teshua gedola ufakantam kayom, and your nation Israel made a salvation, a great salvation, and a redemption as of this day. Va'achar kan ba'u vanecha lidrivesecha, and afterwards your children came into the temple. Ufina es hechalecha, and they cleaned up your tabernacle. V'tiharu es mikdashecha, and they purified your holy places. V'hidliku neros b'chatzros kodshecha, and they kindled candles in the courtyard of your holiness, the courtyards of your holiness. V'kava'u shmonas yemei, and they established 8 days b'halel, for Hallel, uva hoda lishmecha, and to give thanks to your name. Ukashem she'asisa imahem nes, and that that you did for them a miracle.
Right, and as like you made for them a miracle.
As like you made for them a miracle, Cain aseh imanu, so you have done for us, Hashem, our God. Nisim v'niflaos.
I think it's not past. I think it's present, future. So you shall do. It's a prayer. So you shall do for us.
Shall do for us or with us, Hashem, our God, Nisim v'niflaos, miracles and wonders, be'es hazos, in this time, v'noda lishmecha, and we will give thanks to your name, Hagadol Selah, the great Selah means think about it.
Okay, Sela means yeah, ponder. You should give thought to it. Very good. Okay, right. Very good. Any questions or points to clarify about the Alanissim over here?
Just that the name is Tessiahu is spelled Tessiahu in the Siddur here.
I mean, you have similar, like you have the Navi Yeshaya. So sometimes he's referred to as Yeshayahu. Like
Sorry.
it could be. I'm not sure why that changes, but you see it from time to time.
How is this determined that when a siddur is printed, that that they know which the correct nusach, or let me say it another way, the changes that we have now, how is that authorized? How does it work that the words that were decided by great people can be changed?
Because everybody had a different nusach. Okay, people davened without a siddur.
There had to be a core. There had to be some nusach that was written, and then different communities then changed it. But how was that authorized? How does that come about?
Again,
But
don't
Barry, people
forget that
davened without a siddur. They davened Baal Peh. They didn't have a siddur.
you have to
Everybody
remember
davened
that
slightly differently.
Hanukkah took place
Avram was
after
one
the
of the first
Knesset
siddurs to be
Gedolah.
written.
There was no Knesset Gedolah. The Anshe Knesset Gedolah basically gave us the full nusach, all the full versions of what we have in terms of our standard prayers today. But Hanukkah, you have to realize, took place about 200 years after the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. So there was uniform body of standardized prayers, right? So it came after that time when the prayers were standardized. So you have some slight changes that came into were instituted based on what there was in terms of there. Sometimes there's machlokas about what the proper nusach is. You have even in Gemara, you have different girsas in the Gemara. Rashi will have a certain girsa in the Gemara, different in Tosos. So even in the Gemara, you have different versions on certain points, and sometimes they could be very vital points. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. They could be very vital. They could be very vital points. But at some point, when Art Scroll published their siddur, or another publishing company 100 years ago, how did they decide what was the proper nusach for them to print in their siddur?
Well, it usually would depend on the custom of the locality. There were different localities had different customs, but if you were going to when printing was invented, and now there was an opportunity to print standardized versions. So I mean, if you take a look at there's the Otzer Tfilos, a 2-volume siddur.
Yeah, but I'm mute about it. I can't hear that in English.
Types of different nusachs that there were in the prayers. The prayers weren't exactly
you only had one thing to
standardized because they weren't always written down, or they were only written down for a few people who had
your camera.
stuff.
You want to be on camera or not?
Yeah.
So your camera is pointing here.
Can you go on mute while you're doing that, please?
He's on.
He's on mute.
Okay.
All right,
Okay,
so-
because it seems that people are saying, well, it wasn't written down, so they kind of, they did it by memory, and things kind of drifted, to changes in individual communities, but that's not, that's not, so to speak, a good recommendation for the language. I understand language changes all the time. Language is a living thing, and depending on communities, et cetera, things change. But even in the communities where they davened without a siddur, you were only allowed to daven, I understood, if you knew exactly the correct, lashon. You just couldn't get up there and do the best you can. You were only allowed to get up to the amid if you knew it, perfectly.
Yeah, of course.
So-
Look,
so
what,
how-
what do you want? What are you going to say about Tekiah Shofar? You know, how many different? There could be there are at least 8 or 9 different versions of Tekiah Shofar, which is a mitzvah deraisa, right? Because the Rishonim have different opinions as to what the proper way of blowing the shofar is.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So- So it's not it shouldn't be too concerning because like with anything, you have different opinions based on the Goinim and based on the Rishonim in terms of what the proper nusach was, and there was discussion, and sometimes one community, let's say the Ashkenaz community of France and Germany, took as their posek the Rosh and in the Bali Tosas, so they would go according to the nusach that was approved according to the Rosh and the Bali Tosas, whereas those saying in Spain, right, they followed the psak of other Rishonim, which may have disagreed and had a different nusach, and they would pray or blow shofar according to their leaders, how they taught it. But it was all based. It's not without reason why they have different versions.
So 100 years from now, we'll have a different art scroll.
But Barry, look at, why do we have Rabbeinu Tam to fill in and Rashi to fill in?
Yeah.
Moshe Rabbeinu had one type of Moshe Rabbeinu had one type of tefillin. There shouldn't be any machlokas about it. It happens.
Exactly. Yeah, I understand it happens. I'm just trying to understand, how does it come out? There's one type of tefillin. We had one type of tefillin. Okay. At some point in history, somebody said, you know what? I think it should be like this. The tefillin, which we've had since the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, I think it should be amended. Where do you get the koyach to do that?
And
It wasn't a choice that they wanted to amend something. That there exists. There's always a source for the dispute. Let's say of Rashi, Tefillin Rabbeinu Tam, and Tefillin Rashi. So Rabbeinu Tam simply didn't decide to disagree with his grandfather for no reason whatsoever. He had support to what he was saying. Right? Rashi Paskin one way according to the Gemaras and what he had understood to be the proper psak. And Tosas Rabbeinu Tam had disagreed with him. He had
So therefore, is it in the Chumash itself, in the Torah itself, is it possible that has also changed? Do they find Torah scrolls that don't match?
The discrepancies in Torah scrolls are minuscule.
Right. You look at the
literally
Rambam.
maybe-
The Rambam. This according to the Rambam, the Teimanim, their Sefer Torah is somewhat different. Look, you have different Kasav Bichlal. You have the base Yosef Kasav, and you have the other Kasav. You have different Kasav. It's written completely different. I mean, the letters are the same, but the actual formation of the letters is different. You have the Rizal and you have the base Yosef. right?
And it's understandable with all of the upheavals that Jews have had throughout history. It's understandable that and all the separation of the communities all over the world. I mean, it's understandable that the changes would take place.
No, don't no. You don't have to blame it necessarily on Gullus. The Rambam mentions about why we were in doubt as to what the proper Shvarim Trua is when it comes to Kiyah Shofar. The Rambam mentions because the length of the Gullus that we're in, and there are other Rishonim that argue very strongly against him that something is we can't simply blame our being in Gullus for all the different changes that you see between one community and the other. They're usually based on factual and source material. There's different ways of understanding what the Gemara tells us. That's the whole beauty of when you understand the depths of the Gemara, that you have different opinions in the Gemara, and you have different opinions in terms of what the conclusions of the Gemara is, and based on the conclusions that the different Rishonim understand that the Gemara concluded, where sometimes they left it was unresolved in the Gemara, and then you have to decide based on other criteria what the final decision is halacha l'maisa. So to a great degree, it's not because of our being in Gullus. It's basically because of the fact that we have different opinions expressed to us in the Gemara, and there are different understandings of what these opinions are eventually coming and telling us what exactly to do.
But Rebbe, Gullus has to have an effect because it has to be true that if the Jews had stayed in Eretz Israel, let's say, and nothing happened, we just stayed in this country, whether it was a poor country or a rich country or whatever, but if we stayed in Eretz Israel and didn't go into Gullus, so it would have to be that the nusach of there would be one sitter, there would be one nusach.
No,
Maybe
you know very well that each one of the Shvatim, the tribes, had somewhat of a different nusach of tefillah, right?
No, I didn't know that.
That's why there were 12 gates. That's why there are 12 gates in the base of Mikdash, one for each of the Shvatim. Everybody came in different. Everybody came in with their own way of doing things. It's slightly different, not greatly different, but slightly different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to appreciate the differences in Klal Yisrael. Once was described to me by Yisrael David Neiven, that Klal Yisrael is like a piano. If a piano had all one-noted keys, it would be a very uninteresting concerto. So you have the variances in the various different keys and the tunes that they admit, and that's the beauty of the sounds that you get from the piano. And likewise, the Klal Yisrael with the different ways of doing things on a slight way, that gives the variance between the different groups in Klal Yisrael their livelihood in terms of being unique. And that's important. That's important.
So Rebbe is saying that these changes, that these variations existed even in the time of the original Shvatim.
To a certain extent, yeah. To a certain extent, they all had different ways of doing things. Excuse me, I have to take this call for a second. Excuse me.
It's probably Art Scroll.
Barry, if the Anshe Knesset Tegedola had to sit down and organize tefillah, it's clear that people were saying different things at that point.
Right. They standardized it. They standardized it at that time.
Standardized it, right? Yeah.
Right.
Because and why did they standardize it? Because isn't it probable that they thought that some of the variations were losing the intention of the tefillah?
Could be.
Yeah, okay, in any event,
Look, it's amazing. It's with everything the Yidden have been through the centuries. It's amazing that it is just slight variations. Right?
look,
I mean,
you have to, you know, when you get it, when you start learning your Adea, and you really, when you learn shchita and salting the meat, there are wide differences between the Sephardim and the Ashkenazim. So much so that what in certain cases would be kosher for a Sephardic Yid is treif nevela for an Ashkenazi.
yeah, that I know. Exactly. It's very true.
So, you know,
That's a problem.
sure. Okay, in any event, let's continue, and it's important to realize that these nuances are what we have. You know, to a certain extent, we'd like everything to be uniform, but that's also part of the beauty of Klal Yisrael, that we can tolerate each other's differences. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, right? They argued about many things, right? But yet, when it came to intermarriage between the two groups of Talmidei Chachamim, they didn't hesitate to intermarry between them.
Yeah, you know, the Sephardim, you know, have very a lot of different minhagim. Like you say, concerning the kashrus and how, you know, the chicken, they don't count chicken as meat, etc. I know there's a really a real Sephardi shul nearby, and sometimes I help out if a friend of mine is saying Kaddish, so I go there to help him out, and it's really Sephardi, and there's very different. And when I go, when they count the minyan, they only count me as a half.
Okay.
Yeah. So
You're not a Sephardi background, Barry?
Pardon me?
You're not a Sephardi background?
Me? Well, we'll have to discuss that offline.
Where are your ancestors from?
Pardon me? From Kiev.
Oh.
Okay.
So Barry, who's the other half?
Well, I don't want to get deported, so I can't.
Okay, don't say anything then.
No. One is Kiev and one is Odessa.
Ah,
My father's family came from Kiev, and my mother's family came from Odessa.
oh, okay.
Okay, let's go on to the next paragraph, number 4.
Okay, this is the Pri Chadash, Orach Chaim.
No, it's number 5. That's number 5. Number 4.
What?
Number 4.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I don't know these abbreviations.
Okay, Va'admor. I'm not sure of the next one. Va'admor Misatmar. This is the Satmar Rav. He has some comments on Polynesian.
Okay. Mistamar.
Misatmar.
Oh, Misatmar. Okay. Zeker Tzadik Livracha. Piresh. He explains. Boy, there's a lot of abbreviations here. Mem Shin, I don't know.
Marshana.
Masha Kassim.
How much Kassim?
As it is written.
Yep.
By the Baal Hanisim. That's a
In
What?
Alanisim. In Alanisim.
That which is written in Alanisim.
Oh, in Al Hanisim. Lechanukah. Gimel Lishonos. There are 3 different versions.
No, phrases. There are 3 different phrases.
Phrases. There are 3 phrases. Kefulim.
That are doubled up.
that are doubled. Misores they're doubled up transmissions.
Well, Masora, meaning they were given over to, they were, I mean, of triumph. There are three types of expressions dealing with Masoras, the triumph that took place there.
I'm sorry, what did you say after the word Masoras?
The triumph that took place.
The triumph, okay. The Kule, etc. Tamaim biyad. Tameim biyad tahorim, the impure into the hand of the pure. Rishaim biyad tzadikim, the wicked into the hand of the righteous. Vizedim biyad oske Torasecha, the sinners into those who are diligent in the Torah. Okay, so those are the three phrases. Dehane Esa betoldos Yaakov.
Yosef. This is the name of a sefer.
Yaakov Yosef.
This is a parish on Chumash.
Okay, so these are stated in this book.
Yeah, what's going to follow is stated in that book.
Sheyishanam Gimel Sugi Galios.
Galios. There are three types of exile. We're taught with these three expressions. We are taught about three types of exiles.
Okay. Olive. The first one, Galus Hayehudim Biyad Bain Hagoim. First one is the exile of the Jews amongst the non-Jews. The second one, Galus Ha-Talmidei Chachamim Neged Ami Haaretz Sheshon Im Osam. The second one is the exile of Torah scholars corresponding to the nations of the earth.
No, the Ami Haaretz of the uneducated Jews.
The uneducated Jews. Shashonim, I don't know.
They hate them.
It's so sunny that they hate them. That the Ami Haaretz, the uneducated Jews, hate the Talmidei Chachamim.
I see. This is a galus due to the fact that the Talmidei Chachamim are hated by the Ami Haaretz. Okay, I got it. Gimel, the third one, galus
Talmidei Chachamim.
Talmidei Chachamim. Thank you. Halomdim Torah Lishma. The exile of the Torah scholars that learn the Torah for its own sake. Bein ha-Talmidei Chachamim ha-Lomdim amongst the Torah scholars that learn. I don't know what
the conter is. The conter is to be contrary, to be argumentative.
Okay, and what is the ayin mem?
Almanas. On condition to, on with the intention to. They're learning with the intention to be contrary, to be dissentive, and to lispair, to gain recognition. So these three expressions, you have the Tameim Biad Torim, Rishoyim Biad Tzadikim, and Zaydim Biad Oskesor Secha. So you have this is reminiscent, it's symbolic of the three types of exile that we find ourselves in. The first, Tameim Biad Torim, that's the general exile of the Jewish people amongst the rest of the nations of the world. Then you have the Rishoyim Biad Tzadikim, that's reference to the Golus of the Talmidei Chachamim amongst the rest of the population, which is uneducated in Torah. And then the third final Golus is that of the Zaydim, right? Biad Osli Sorasecha, that those Talmidei Chachamim that are learning Lishma, they have found themselves in the Golus of those who are not learning Torah Lishma. So you have the global exile that we experience, the Jewish people amongst the rest of the people of the world. Then you have the internal gullus of the Jewish people themselves, those who are learning Torah as opposed to those who are not learning Torah, who are not knowledgeable of Torah. Then finally, you have, even within the base medrash, you have different groups, those who are learning Lishma and those who are learning Shalom Lishma.
But there's a fourth term in Al-Anisim, Rabbi Miad Ma'atim. There's four terms, not three. So what happens to the fourth one?
So what can we say about the Rabbi Miad Ma'atim? That why is that not corresponding to a golus? Why is that not corresponding to a golus? That
why would it not be? When we're in Gullus, we're always the minority. So
the question is, there's four terms in Al-Anisim. Why does the Samarav only pick up three of them? Why doesn't he pick up the fourth one also?
Right.
Why did he pick those three to say something about?
Right.
Well, maybe he did he have it in his nusach?
Yeah. I'm sure you had to make that. Yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay.
If you want, check with someone who has a. The next time you have Shabbos, check with someone who has a shrine and ask them what their nusach is.
So this idea of the one who
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Elias. I'd have to think about it. It's a good point. Good point. Not sure. Yeah, go ahead, Lou. What do you want to say?
This comment about the Talmidei Chachamim that learn on condition to be contrary and to be recognized. That is like an epicurus?
No, it's total shalom lishma. It's actually a very low madrega. If a person is learning the kanter l'spaer, that's a very low madrega of lishma. Of shalom lishma. It's a very shalom lishma. It's the Gemara says a person who's learning on that, it's better he wasn't born. The Gemara says those type of people who are learning, it's better they weren't born. So. But it is there. It's, the Gemara speaks about this situation. It's a very situation.
Can't hear you, Rabbi.
There's a Gemara in Brachos, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can find the dot for you. 1 second. 1 second, please. I think yes, it should be around Daf Tes Zion Amid Base in the Gemara in Brachos. There's Rav Safra. Rav Safra would make a special tefillah at the end of his Shmona Esrei. He would say the following: Yiratzon L'Fenecha Hashem Elokeinu Itasim Shalom, Bipamalya Shomala, Ubipamalya Shomata. Kadosh Baruch Hu, he prayed that he should make peace between the retinue above and the retinue below. Ubein Talmidim Ma'oschim B'Sor Secha, and amongst the Talmidim that are involved with learning your Torah. Bein Oskim Lishma, between those who are learning Lishma, Bein Shoskim Shalo Lishma. And there should be a shalom between those who are learning Lishma and Shalo Lishma. And all those who are learning Torah Shalo Lishma, they should be given the opportunity to learn Torah Lishma. So that's the Rosh Safra had a special prayer that he would say at the end of his Shmon Esrei, as is recorded in the Gemara and Brachas Daf Zayin Amid Beis. Yeah. Right. So you see that was quite significant. It's not easy if a person's learning Torah Lishma and he has to interact with people learning Torah Shelo Lishma. It's very, very nerve-wracking, and it's also very disruptive in the process and the methodology of trying to learn. So that's considered to be a gullus. That's considered to be a type of an exile. The Mishnah in Avos says, and I believe it's at the end of I'll quote it to you in a minute, toward the end of the end of the fifth parak, towards the end of the fifth parak in Pierke Avos, there's a statement. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tameh, Omer, he said, Omer, Havi az kenomer kal kenesher rotz ketzvi v'gibur kari lasos ratzon avicha shebeshamayim. You should be fast, fierce, brazen as a leopard, and swift as a eagle, and should run quickly like a deer, and should be mighty as a lion to do the ratzon of your forefather, your father in Shemayim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Who, oh man, he continues on further. He says, "Who am I? As panim legehenim. Those who are brazen are destined for Gehenim. Bosh panim legan Eden. Those who are humble, they're destined for Gan Eden." And then he makes a prayer. There's a prayer here. We pray that Hashem should build the Beis Hamikdash quickly in our times, and he should give us our personal portion in his Torah. So Rabbi Akiva Eger on this Mishnah in the Pirkei Avos mentions that this is one of the few times in all of Mishnayos you only see this phrase of Yehi Ratzon maybe twice in all of Mishnayos, and he makes a connection between this second statement of Yehuda ben Tameh and this Yehi Ratzon, that he prefaces this Yehi Ratzon with the statement "Az panim legehenim." Right, those who are brazen-faced are destined for Gehenim. And then he makes a prayer that the Beis Hamikdash should be rebuilt, and we should all be given our portion in Torah. So Rabbi Akiva Eger makes the following connection between the two statements: that Bisman Hazeh, when we don't have a Beis Hamikdash and we don't have the Shekhinah surrounding us and focusing our attention on serving Kadosh Baruch Hu properly, so it's necessary that in what they call the Milchamta Shel Torah, the battles and the wars of trying to thrash out the halacha and just come to a truthful understanding of things, a person sometimes has to be brazen in terms of his learning and has to be somewhat aggressive which is really not a good meter. But nevertheless, he teaches us that you should be, right? You should be as kinami, you should be as brazen faced as a leopard, bold as a leopard to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? But nevertheless, it's not a good meter. It's not really a good meter. It's needed, but it's not a good meter. And therefore, since it's not a good meter, we pray for the base of Mikdash that it should be rebuilt again. And therefore, when it will be rebuilt, people can now learn Torah in a more subdued and in a more polite fashion without the necessity of being chutzpahdik. So that's the connection between the first statement of Ben Tama and the second statement is his prayer. So let's just yeah. Okay.
Can I comment on something that was discussed yesterday?
Yeah. What'd you like to say, Ramon? Go ahead.
Yes. When do you sing Haneros Alolu? If 3-4 people are lighting candles and you start singing Haneros Alolu when the first person lights, that's a hafsaka for the other people. So when I was told yesterday that I've been doing it wrong my whole life by waiting until the brachos are finished, then singing Haneros Alolu, I think that's not accurate because we don't want to have hafsaka. I did a little research and that's what I came up with. So, but I was told that it's a specific statement in Mishnah Berurah that you can sing Haneros Alolu during the brachos. What's the source of that?
First of all, who said you were doing wrong? Who said you were doing anything wrong?
One of the mispalim over here said I was doing wrong my whole life.
No, there's 2 shitas in the Mishnah Berurah. You can do it. You say during or after. Mishnah Berurah holds both ways.
Yeah, you have a choice.
So why a statement was made that I was doing wrong my whole life, I think that was inappropriate. Maybe it was a joke, but those jokes should not be made to insult people. Okay, that's my comment.
Okay, no problem. That's no one's interested in insulting anybody, and if the Mishnah Berurah gives you a choice to do what you can do it any way you want according to the Mishnah Berurah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, so let's take a little break now, and we'll continue in about 5 minutes with the Mishnah Berurah. And Roy, I want to thank you.